Okay, hey guys, Sam here with you on Wednesday, October 24th, about middle of the day, and had some requests. As it's a Wednesday, we're looking at crypto assets here. So we've got a couple of crypto coins that are sparking quite a bit. So number one by request from our members was a look at Ravencoin. Now it's kind of interesting. Right? So here's this. I've got it on Bittrex here as we had more history. So here, this is not really relevant. Apparently that's when it hit Bittrex. But it's not relevant to what we're doing here. And I just put this blue line here just so I knew it was kind of screwing up the chart where that started so I could get it on the edge. Doesn't affect anything we're doing. So because we ultimately get the lowest low here, which I've just wicked off with this yellow line. We get a lower low. So I think this is actually a little easier to see on the 30 minutes. So I'm going to go to the 30 minute. Here's our low. Now we can get a count on this. The one wave is a bit of a it's not pretty, right? So do we have the ingredients? Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch here that you'd have a 1 bar 4. So yeah, you can get a one wave into it. Yeah, and we can get an ABC. So let's go with that. So it feels a little bit like a force fit, but I get a pivot here that seems to be significant. So as we put this pivot and then retrace, we get another impulse. We come down and we hold that low. So it looks like perhaps some structural support. We've also got our Vegas wave right here before we go into launch mode. So yeah, until proven otherwise, I'm inclined to give that our 1, this being our 2, because I do get a nice clean ABC to give us that 2. Now, given what's happened here with this benefit of all of this price action, we would certainly want this to be our 3rd. So it doesn't play as well if you were thinking, oh, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's longer than that. But the retracement's too shallow here for this to have completed, for us this to be a 1, 2 of the larger degree. So I think it's a better fit to go 1, 2, 1, 2. So we'd be looking for this 4 relative to, well, we'd look for the relationships between all of it. So if I grab my fib tool, first one I would check, of course, is the 2 to the 3. Oops, I got the wrong tool on there. That's our ranging tool. We'll come back to that. So let's just get our traditional back on. So if we're going to have a true Elliott count here, now we've gone deep for a 4, but given the size of that 3rd, question is, are we done, right? So is this, do we have a completed A wave here? Well, we'll look at it on a smaller degree, see if that makes sense. The bullish case here would be the anticipation that we're just in the process now. It looks like maybe we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be a 1, 2, looking for a 3, 4, and 5 to take us up here to complete some sort of, looks like there's an effort to try and get this perhaps the 4 of the 5 of the 1 of the 5th. No, it sounds crazy when you say it out loud, but I think you get the idea. It's a question of, right now, the only thing I can really qualify here is say, well, after the rip, this is the first time I've got potentially a lower high. So it sets up the possibility that we might have an A wave going in here and then a B wave here. We'd be looking for perhaps parity. That would be a reasonable target, if not the 618. Well, the 618 and the 50 overlapped here. We got a bit through it. So if we were going to double top, if the 4 is not done, right, it's kind of a judgment call. That's a reasonable place to look for it. If we're going to go all the way to the 100, now you got to be a little bit more concerned, because the probabilities now of a 4 being that deep and then reaching a target like this are reduced. They're already reduced. If this is going to be our 4 here, we're already reduced the fact that we've been through the 50. Now, that's not to say it doesn't happen. Certainly we've seen cases where that happens. Excuse me. The other thing that I would do, given the length of that 3rd, is I would check all the way back to the start here and see how that plays. So taking the length of the proposed pivot here for the 2nd wave, if we take the start of 1 through 3, is any better? Well, again, the 233 seems to have caught it here. Let me open this up a little bit more. See, do we have a decent? See, here's where this looks a little more problematic for me. This looks like I've got 5 coming down, so that would suggest that if I dig into this, that I've only just put in an A wave. So it looks like I've got 5 coming down here. Now let me get that. That's way too high. Let's get down to submicro. So it looks more to me like I've got a 5 wave going in. So that looks more like the A wave is just finishing here. So that would be the A. If this is A, B, C, now no way to know here until we see, is there a push up? Do we go in 5? That's potentially a B, which would put our C down here. So I'm just using the 40 as the 50 here as our wave 4 as a placeholder. So how are we going to know? Well, if we get, if this, what do I want here? If we have another kick here, then we have the potential for this to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it doesn't play as a B because we have a clear 5-wave structure. But if this holds here and we start to come down, then we can be more confident in the idea that this is the B, we're heading down for the C, and we'd start measuring. Now, right now, until we get confirmation here. So let me go to the 15. Just see what I mean. Until I get confirmation, this is right now looks more like we've got an impulse here, right? So here's this would be a 1, 2, perhaps the 3 is going in. So this is tricky. We're right at a point where you have to make a decision. Are you anticipating? Well, let's see how it would look. If this was the 2 to the 3, right between the 23 and the 38, so ideal spot for a 4. So there certainly is the potential that this kicks and we get 5. So then you would lean into the idea that we'd have to recount this. Boy, it's pretty good there. So look at that nice 3 waves for that 4. So if it was just a matter of playing the odds are that this all we've done is put in the B here. So if I look at this and think about reasonable location for a B wave, well, we got through the golden zone. So anywhere from the 50 to 786 for a B. So I would say that there's really no trade here until you get confirmation as to what we have. Are we going to go up and get this as a 5? If that's the case, then we got to reconsider this as, oh, I suppose we'd have to do it this way. You could go 3, 4, 5 for your A wave. Little ABC now would be shallow for the B wave, and we'd be coming down and finishing the C here. This is not unreasonable. All right, so that's potentially now our way to organize it, so that we'd have our A. So we have to allow for this double bottom. Well, we don't get, it's not truncation, just the scale of the 5th is rather short relative to the 1, 2, 3. So, you kind of feel a bit like you're force fitting there. It plays better for this to go 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, 4, and now we push down for the 5. But if we're going to get an impulse here, if we're going to go into an impulse, then you have to, kind of check back here and say, okay, well, I suppose we could dig out a 5th there. It's awfully short. But that's the only way we could count it. So we'd have an A, the little 3 wave for the B. So we'd have a classic zigzag. Pardon me. Let me slow down. 5, 3. I guess you can get 5 out of that for your C wave. So you'd have your zigzag there, and then we'd be off to the races. 1, 2, 3. So if I label it, so here's the bullish. Here's what a bull is going to see is 1, 2, 3. 4 is going in, 5 is going, there's our algo target. That would give us our potential 1 wave. That's the bullish view. Getting that off. So how are we going to know? Well, you're kind of in that no man's land, is that you really can't confirm it. So what can you do? Well, trend is up, certainly. We've corrected. We've gone just shy of the 50. It's deep, but it's there. So you need some confirmation. So first thing I see here is, looks to me like I got a pretty good channel here. So if I squeeze back out, well, can we get through this, right? This is the key pivot right here. So think of it this way. If that we're going to complete that 5 and we get that algo target there that we just measured on that shorter time frame, that's very unlikely to be that we're going to end up with a truncated 5th here. I mean, it's possible, but unlikely. So we've got a valid target up here for that 5 to complete the 3rd. So if this is going to be a 1 wave here of our 5th, well, we know the 2 is likely to come, so we can just do something like that. So let me go, yellow is fine. Let's go up a degree. So that potentially now would be, I think, the smarter way to play this, because we're in this, there's no way to know here until we get confirmation. Are we going up or are we going down? So this could be either this is A, B, C is still to come, which, reduces the probability of getting to that target, or we're just in the one wave of the fifth wave relative to this third. Right, so until you get a push here, hard to know. If you do get that push, well then, right, so the idea is not to necessarily buy this as a breakout. The idea is that if we get that, we'd have an impulse potentially setting up for the one of the five. So we know after a five-wave structure, we're going to look for a retrace to at least the 50. So it would set that up. So this all would be moving higher. This would be up here as well. So we'd have all of that. So if this is going to come down, so this would be, so we'd be looking for a little three-wave counter trend. 50 would be the ideal zone. If we're going up for that third, we'd be looking for, remember the negative 100 will be very close to the 1618. Right? So if we went a little further, we came down here, we got a 4, and then we got up for a 5. All right, that would complete us. Now we'd have the 5 completing up here of the fifth. I guess that one has to go up a degree to give us the completed potential third. So this would be here. Here would be the 4. So as it's sitting here right now, if it's going to go and finish all of that, well, there's no reason to chase. Right? We've had this move. Now it's unconfirmed. Well, so this is where some Elliott helps us, because if we confirm this with a break of this high and we get a motive wave, well, then I can lean more into the idea that the 4 is complete of this degree. So this would have to go, let me take that. Let's go to subminuet. That'll work. Okay, so then we'd have 3, 4 would be in, 1 of 5 is done. Anticipate after the 1. That's why I wouldn't chase here, because the odds are very high that if we complete this 5, right? So of course it's certainly possible we just go straight up, but that seems like it's. If you watch the markets don't move in straight lines, right? So every now and then we get a pump like that where it's just goes vertical, but ultimately there's going to be correction. So if it's me, I'm waiting for the 2 here. I don't see any need to try and roll the dice that's, it looks more to me like the correction is not complete. But if it's going to go, then I say, okay, great. All right, there's the 1 of the 5. So in terms of targets for that fifth, remember I've just wicked off the low. Well, we could take 1 through 3, so we might do it this way. We take this. We know this is our low. If we're going to take the pivot low through the third, project from the 4, well, the 618. All right, that's a reasonable target. Here's the 100%. The other, so we can mark that off. So there's a target for us. So let me get that highlighted here. So here's one hot box. We'd have the negative 1618 and the 100% of the start of the 1 through the third. But I would also check here. Well, let's see. I would check. Pardon me. I got to change the tool. So let me go this way. So I would take, if this is the start of my 1, and if this is the 4, I'd be looking for some of these upper targets here. Do I get any confluence? So an extreme for the 5 relative to the 1 would be the 2618. So it's I don't love it, right? I got to be honest here. So 3, 4. Now we're asking for a lot in that fifth. Relative to the length of the 1. The shallowness of the 2, we didn't quite make the 50, but the structural support might get you, allowing for that the shallowness of that 2, right? We've seen it before. Strong market. Again, maybe that structure is what's kicking here. But again, if we look here, if we take the start of the 1 projected from the 4, we're going to have to get some upper targets here to have that kick here. If this is going to complete as a 1, 2, we're going to get everything we'd look for in the 3, 4, and the 5 to get up there for that 5. We're going to need a pretty big kick in the 5th to get that. So, it wouldn't be a place that I'd put a lot of capital, but if I got this retrace here to the 2, again, on the assumption that we complete the 5 here, if I got the 2 here, I think that's tradable as to how much we get out of that 1. Well, let's do it this way. Let's think if we finished there, where's the minimum requirement to get a third? Now we could, as it's a 5th, we could have a diagonal, right? We know that. So we could have something like this if we were going to overlap. So then, you kind of put the roadmap together and you go, well, how are we going to get up there? What would that look like? So if this could be a diagonal, so so the breakdown would be an impulse in the 1. we'd have to have we'd look for our little 3 and the 2 if we're only going to go to the 100, right? See, I'm trying to say, how can we get there without a kick of an extension in the 5th? If I'm only going to come down to the 50 and I'm push up here, well, I'd have a 3rd here. All right, so part of it is what kind of structure does it take? Do I get a true impulse here? Do I do an ABC, leaning more into the idea we'd have a diagonal? If I overlap that 1 by just a hair, then we'd be looking for that relationship between the start of the 1 through the pivot of the 3rd. We'd be looking for this down at the 50 is ideally where you'd find that. So you'd be looking for this coming down here, kind of deep. You know, it doesn't look, it looks kind of ugly, right? So if I got that 3rd, at least I get to the 100 here. Maybe I go 1, 2, 7, 2. I don't, you know, I'm just speculating. It's just a question. How am I going to get up there? If this is 3, 4, without being unrealistic or trading the possible and not the probable, you know, maybe we get an ending diagonal up here. Maybe we'll have to see what that looks like. So again, right now we haven't even completed the 1. So if that's going to kick like that, that's what I'd be looking for, to have more reasonable targets up here to complete this 5 of the 3rd. That's all relative to this first 1. Right, so think about that. If this is the 1 and we're just completing the 3rd here in blue, this being the 3rd relative to this 1, well, that's a monster move, right? In swing relationships. Let me pull some of this down. Pull all this up. So if we think about where that 3 is relative to the start of all of this, well, let's just use our tools. So here's the absolute lowest low. Here's my 1 high. All right, so here if I was, yes, we can't even get there. Right? So it's so far beyond it, it makes me a little suspicious of this count. So we'd have to have a 1, 2, massive extension in the 3rd relative to the length of the 1. You know, it's possible, right? It's possible. So, I mean, the other thought is that if we've completed, if this is the 1, and so look what we've done here. So if this is the absolute low, could we have the count wrong? Could the 2 just be going in here? So if you think, oh, wait a minute, maybe the 3 is here and the 5 is down here, right? So this would put the whole thing, maybe we've completed the 3rd here. 1, 2, 3, we can dig out that 4 here. It would require a shallow 4, pardon me. If this is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if we come to the 4 here at the 38, we're okay, but we still haven't confirmed that we have a 1 wave here. All right, so it's not perfect, right? So if you love the project, I mean, there's certainly a lot of good things to look at the project. So if we come over here, we look at over at Coin Checkup, which I always like. Look at here, right? So starting to move, right? I don't, you know, I've put a lot of weight into this, but certainly the recommendations from the short term are strong buy. Good algo score, 3.9 out of 5, looks very strong in the development community. Product strength, a 96. So there's a lot of enthusiasm for this project. Looks like it's a good team. There's all sorts of details for you to dig in here if you want to learn more about the project. I mean, there's a lot to be said for it. I mean, there's a lot there. So thus this action that we're getting, but it's still very, very early days, right? If this is really going to go, well, of course, we're spread to Bitcoin, so Bitcoin, you know, can't outpace it. It's possible here. So I guess I'm getting long-winded here. The bottom line here, I'd wait and confirm that we get 5 coming off of this low. If we don't, then we got to rethink the whole thing. If we get 5, then you can play from this pivot that we know we've got that motive wave coming there. So we can play for the 2 into the 3 as to what that shape looks like, how it plays coming out of that. Well, of course, that all remains to be seen. But we're trying to finish the 5th of something because we can lean into the idea that this is our impulse. This is our 3rd of some degree here. And if so, then 4 potentially is in here, right? So now if we look at from swing from the absolute low to that pivot, we've only gone to the 38. So potentially you've got your 4, and now we're just going up to put in the 5, looking at this algo target as a reasonable location. But first things first, let's get 5 coming off of that low so we can lean into that as a 1 wave coming off of this pivot. It looks like we're getting a little kick here, so that might happen in the very near term. So you have first the break of this channel. There's probably median lines here you could work from. probably go here, see how this looks. Now I've got a modifier on there. Always start with original. That might be, looks like that could be in play here. So our median line moving up here. So we've got this time component. That's why we like median lines, because they give us they're a leading indicator. If we're going to do something like that, so potentially now you come up here, tag the median line. Right, so here would be the corner. We'd tag the median line, come back down. That would be the 2 relative to this 5-wave structure here. That 2 certainly could set up nicely here right on the lower parallel. So then we'd have our 2, push for the 3. Maybe that gets our algo target. Come back down for the 4. I don't know what that looks like. Are we going diagonal? Are we going higher? What do we get? Right, it's just a roadmap. So I would leave it something like that. First tell, do I get 5 here? If I get 5, what's the depth of this retracement? If it's a clean 50, then I can be a buyer here, knowing that if I'm wrong, that this pivot is where I'm invalidated. If this is going to kick into the 3rd of the 5th, well, I'm looking good. Right? It's a question of how much room. You don't need to give it all the way to that pivot. So if you just drew that up, if we get up here and we get our 1 here, well, you don't need to give it beyond the 786. So I'd give it to the 786. So I'd be just on the other side of that. If it's going to go below, then it's looking more like this is A, B, and C going in. So there you go. That's what I see there. It's good to see some sparks in crypto. So at least we've got a few strong projects are on the move. So I will leave that there. Members, I'll post this up and clean it up a little bit. But there's our potential roadmap. But inconclusive until we confirm the 5 here. All right, guys, that's it for now. I've got 2 more today to do, so I'll be back to you shortly.